Right now, only 15% of you are subscribed, but that number's growing. So if you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hey guys, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In this video, we're going to be discussing Hermione, the Sorting Hat, and the Hogwarts housing system. More specifically, we will be answering the question, why wasn't Hermione in Ravenclaw? As we know, there are 4 Hogwarts houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Each house has defining characteristics, and at the beginning of a student's journey at Hogwarts, they are assigned to one of these 4 houses based on how well the student's own character traits mesh with the principles of the house. The assignee of the Hogwarts houses is the fabled Sorting Hat, a filthy, old, frayed, dirty hat that once belonged to Hogwarts founder Godric Gryffindor. The hat is extremely outspoken and is praised by professors and students alike for its uncanny ability to assign houses to Hogwarts students. The hat is a sentient being that originally belonged to Godric Gryffindor and was bewitched by all 4 founders: Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. Before the hat's existence, the founders would manually sort students into houses. However, after some time, they realized that the selection process would outlive them, so they created the hat to continue tradition. The founders of Hogwarts recognized that they each valued very different virtues which ended up leading to the defining attributes of each house. It was important to them that the houses they founded would continue to follow by the beliefs from which they were based. These virtues, or inherent characteristics, can be summed up in the Sorting Hat's own words. 1,000 years or more ago, when I was newly sown, there lived 4 wizards of renown, whose names are still well known: bold Gryffindor from Wildmoor, fair Ravenclaw from Glen, sweet Hufflepuff from Valley Broad, shrewd Slytherin from Fen. They shared a wish, a hope, a dream. They hatched a daring plan to educate young sorcerers. Thus Hogwarts School began. Now each of these 4 founders formed their own house, for each did value different virtues in the ones they had to teach. By Gryffindor, the bravest were prized far beyond the rest. For Ravenclaw, the cleverest would always be the best. For Hufflepuff, hard workers were most worthy of admission, and power-hungry Slytherin loved those of great ambition. While still alive, they did divide their favourites from the throng, yet how to pick the worthy ones when they were dead and gone? 'Twas Gryffindor who found the way, he whipped me off his head. The founders put some brains in me, so I could choose instead. Now slip me snug about your ears, I've never yet been wrong. I'll have a look inside your mind and tell where you belong. The hat uses legilimency, the art of magically navigating through a person's mind to assess the student's traits. After placing the hat on your head, it will begin to analyze your mind and place you in a house based on how closely you resemble one of the 4 founders. If the hat senses great bravery, Gryffindor is a likely choice. If the hat senses great intelligence, Ravenclaw is a likely choice. If the hat senses that someone is a hard worker, Hufflepuff is a likely choice. And finally, if the hat senses that someone is hungry for power, then Slytherin is a likely choice. But one thing that I've always wondered is, if intelligence is a defining characteristic of Ravenclaw, then why wasn't our very own Hermione Granger in Ravenclaw House? In the years that she spent at Hogwarts, she was widely considered to be the brightest witch of her age. Time and time again, she displayed lateral thinking, quickly adjusting to her circumstance or environment and overcoming all sorts of obstacles. Not only that, but she has an inquisitive and practical mind, which allows her to constantly challenge the status quo, frequently introducing new approaches to conventional methods of spell conjuring or potion making. She just exudes intelligence on so many levels. So again, why Ravenclaw? When Hermione first placed the hat on her head in the Philosopher's Stone, it wasn't an easy decision for the hat, and took quite some time to decide. Funnily enough, Hermione is actually asked why she isn't in Ravenclaw in the Order of the Phoenix. The exchange is as follows. "How come you're not in Ravenclaw?" he, Terry Boot, demanded, staring at Hermione with something close to wonder. "With brains like yours." "Well, the Sorting Hat did seriously consider putting me in Ravenclaw during my sorting," said Hermione brightly. but it decided on Gryffindor in the end. Very rarely, every 50 years or so to be exact, a hat stall will occur during the sorting hat ceremony. This is when the sorting hat needs additional time to come up with a decision. Usually it is considered a hat stall when the decision takes 5 minutes or longer. This usually occurs when a student has a personality that could be considered equally suitable for each of the Hogwarts houses. McGonagall faced a similar situation to Hermione in her earlier years, and the hat deliberated for 5.5 minutes on whether she should be placed in Ravenclaw or Gryffindor, the same houses that it considered for Hermione. I think that this tells us that McGonagall and Hermione are very similar people. While Hermione did not quite reach the hat stall mark, she was close at a time of 4 minutes. This tells us that her levels of bravery and intelligence are probably quite comparable. It's also worth noting that in the case of a hat stall, the hat may take the student's personal preference into consideration for its decision. In the Philosopher's Stone, on the Hogwarts Express, she shows a clear preference for Gryffindor over Ravenclaw. I've been asking around, and I hope I'm in Gryffindor. It sounds by far the best. I hear Dumbledore himself was one, but I suppose Ravenclaw wouldn't be too bad. As the hat was struggling to place Hermione, it's more than likely that it used her preference as one of the deciding factors. We know the defining character trait of Gryffindor to be bravery, something that is exhibited by the trio time and time again throughout the series. But is Hermione really braver than she is intelligent? She'd have to be pretty brave, and does she really value bravery over intelligence? While it may seem like Hermione values intelligence above all, an exchange between Harry and Hermione in the Philosopher's Stone reveals where Hermione's priorities really lie. "I'm not as good as you," said Harry, very embarrassed as she let go of him. "Me?" said Hermione. "Books and cleverness? There are more important things. Friendship and bravery. And, oh Harry, be careful." If it was ever ambiguous, I think that this exchange definitively determines which values Hermione holds closest. This line, by itself, shows that she values the traits of Gryffindor, courage and bravery, in a higher regard than the traits of Ravenclaw, intelligence and knowledge. And she doesn't just value these traits, she exhibits them time and time again throughout the Harry Potter series. Her courageousness and strength truly shine through in a number of situations that she's been in and decisions she's made. These situations include, but are not limited to, putting herself in harm's way and saving Ron from the Devil's Snare in the Philosopher's Stone, stepping in front of a then unknown Sirius Black in the Shrieking Shack under the impression that he was there to kill Harry, accompanying Harry to the Department of Mysteries despite strongly opposing the idea, staying with Harry even though she loved Ron when the trio disbanded in the Deathly Hallows on their hunt for Horcruxes, and most notably when she had to erase herself from her own parents' memories, a task that would require all of the courage in the world. Now, it has been speculated that the hat has a tendency to place students in houses based on the qualities they value, and not necessarily the qualities that they actively personify. Additionally, the hat can detect nascent qualities in a student, and generally places them in the house that will challenge them the most, putting their character to the test. A good example of this is Neville Longbottom. I think that Hermione is an equally good example of this, as when she started at Hogwarts, she was actively exhibiting the behavior of a stereotypical know-it-all. Based on this alone, one would assume that the hat would choose Ravenclaw, but it detected that deep down, Hermione's inherent characteristics more closely meshed with Gryffindor. It knew to place her in the house that would bring these qualities out. As she was already very studious and intelligent, it made more sense that she would be placed in Gryffindor, as she would have a lot more opportunity for personal development. Gryffindor had a lot more to offer her. One thing that's for sure, the hat insists that it has never made a mistake, and always backs its original decision, regardless of whether or not the student acts in accordance with the values of the house. In Hermione's case, I think that its decision to place her in Gryffindor was the best decision that it could have made. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to like and subscribe if you guys enjoy the videos. Which house do you feel Hermione truly belongs in? Was the Sorting Hat right after all? Until next time, you're a wizard, Harry!